Our top story tonight is about Syria. The war in the country has reignited in a way. Islamist rebels have launched a shock offensive challenging Assad's regime. Russia and Syria have responded with intense airstrikes. Iran has sent a backup to support the Syrian government forces. But what's the story really, and who are these rebels? Why is Russia involved? Why is Iran involved for that matter? What's at stake for them, and how could this escalate the situation in West Asia? Let's dive straight in. Starting off with the very latest. As per reports, Iran-backed militias have entered Syria. They are there to support Assad's fight against the rebel uprising. In fact, they are heading north to bolster the Syrian army forces battling the rebels. These are fresh reinforcements, by the way, being sent to aid the Syrian forces. But who are the Iranian militias helping the Syrian forces? They are Iraq's Kataib Hezbollah and Fatimiyun groups. But it's not just Iran helping the Syrian forces. Russia is helping as well. On Sunday, in fact, Russian and Syrian jets bombed rebel territory. This after rebel groups took control of a string of cities, including most of Aleppo, dealing a crushing blow to the Assad regime. Now, the rebel groups claim to have also entered the city of Hama. Syria's opposition-run rescue service, known as the White Helmets, has said at least 25 people have been killed in the airstrikes launched by Russia and Syria. And next comes the question of why Russia and Iran have become involved in the Syrian conflict. And to answer that, we will have to travel back in time. Nearly a decade ago, Russia saved the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad from the brink of collapse. And in return, President Putin had reportedly promised basically unlimited access to Syria's Tartus naval base. Here's a short history of the conflict. During the 2011 Arab Spring, protests in Syria against the President Bashar al-Assad were met with violent repression. It led to the rise of the armed opposition groups. These forces, backed by countries like Turkey, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, the US, were opposed by Assad's allies, Iran and Russia as well. Russia and Iran had provided military support to the Assad regime. And as the conflict escalated, extremist groups like ISIS gained prominence. The US-led coalition focusing on defeating ISIS, while the Syrian Democratic Forces, largely Kurdish fighters, played a key role in this effort. A ceasefire between Russia and Turkey in 2020 halted major fighting. But Assad's government did not fully regain control, and armed resistance persists. So why now? What triggered the latest flare-up? The rebels say they are responding to increased attacks from Syrian government forces and pro-Iranian militias, but they aim to exploit a weakened government while its key allies, Russia and Iran, are distracted by other conflicts, Russia with the war in Ukraine and Iran with its conflict with Israel. As for the question of who are the rebels, it's basically a broad spectrum of opposition forces, from Islamist factions to moderates. Leading them is Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, a former al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria that used to go by the name al-Nusra Front. The group officially cut ties with the al-Qaeda and has been the de facto ruler in Idlib. In fact, they have been joined by groups backed by Turkey and others previously supported by the US. Complicating the situation is that some of the rebel groups are also fighting the Syrian Democratic Forces. The Turkish-backed Free Syrian Army, which is part of the rebel coalition that took control of most of Aleppo city, claims to have seized control of the cities in the northern part of the Aleppo governorate. It also claimed to have captured the villages in Aleppo's northern countryside. Those territories were previously held not by the government of Bashar al-Assad, but by the Syrian Democratic Forces. Coming back to the question and the situation that lies right now and the way things stand, Syrian and Russian jets have been striking the rebels in Aleppo and Idlib, and this helped them win back territory during the civil war. Assad also vowed that Syria will continue to defend its stability and territorial integrity. The Syrian Defense Ministry is preparing a counter-offensive, but its ability and willingness to respond remain uncertain depending on the support from its allies. Iran has shown support with top diplomat Abbas Araghchi visiting Damascus. But with the rebels now controlling Aleppo, including key military sites and the airport, any counterattack by the Syrian army will be challenging, to say the least. Which now brings us to the last and major question. What does this mean for the situation in West Asia overall? Have a look at this map on your screen now. The red spots are the regions currently involved in conflict. Gaza, Lebanon, Israel, Iran, Yemen, Iraq, Syria. Could the situation in Syria escalate to the point of destabilizing an already volatile region further? We will have to wait and watch for that answer. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.